Hello and welcome to the Thursday of week 5. It is a fine afternoon and we are hopefully heading into the last little bit of work to do with the Void Zone visuals. Controller ready because we're going to jump straight in. Not on beginner, we're not. On intermediate, we're going to jump straight in and we're just going to go for a little hunt to see if we can't find ourselves some of the new Void Zone visuals. Hopefully that snake doesn't come this way. Might just kill that snake before it's a problem. We're going to bop along here at our own rate until we see what we want to see. As is tradition. As soon as you want a void zone in your life, there we go. So we can see the edge of a spawn there as it comes into the world. A column of binary running into the back wall. Pretty terrifying off in the distance there. We're just going to get ourselves a bit better vantage. That is the effect. So I might just take this opportunity to pause our elements. So that is our void zone. You can see a rim of blocks around the outside here being sucked into this tunnel and then thrown back against that back wall. So the concept has evolved in stages. The process of its development has been quite cool because it mirrors a lot of the larger project level findings in the design space and is a nice little example of how to apply some of these new ideas and new principles that I'm trying to integrate into my design process. So initially this big black column would just run all the way back and would interface with the back wall here, and it was this clean, like two clean sheen surfaces just coming up to meet perfectly. And it didn't look very good because whenever you do have this situation of perfect surfaces meeting, it looks instantly odd to the eye because in real life we don't have that ever. There is always going to be some ambient occlusion, like some shadowing in the creases or some slight bevel that we can identify. Some different way that the light's bouncing around in those corners and crevices and whatnot. And in a computer game, unless you specifically imitate that, it's not there by default, so it ends up looking a little strange. So I added this transparent drop-off, this transparent fade to the end of the occlusion tunnel. And that looked really great. Then ran into the issue of these particles, these blocks, kind of being spat along this tunnel and then were just disappearing into the back wall, which wasn't very good. So I had to more properly integrate the death wall with the back wall where the particles should be hitting that wall and actually hitting that wall. So if we hit play here, we can see we've now got this like particle explosion, collision happening at the end state there, where it looks like the particles are being chewed up out of this ring, thrown into the tunnel, spat back, and then bouncing off the wall at the end. Great. Play tested it. It was okay. In a situation like this, though, with our very convenient bottom right one now spawning in, when the tunnel was black with this little transparent fade, but the whole length of this travel, the situation arose that if I had a void zone down there, maybe a void zone off to my left like I do, and maybe another one up in the top right, it ends up that quite a large portion of your screen is actually just being occluded by those black tunnels. So it kind of is ruining a little bit the way that you read the Z0 plane. This being essentially a 2D platformer, it's pretty important that we keep this 0Z plane very easy to read so that the player knows where they can put their feet. With the black tunnels occluding back like that, it became, imagine if this black tunnel here was now all the way back to here, it became a little bit more unclear about where the player can stand. So shortened the tunnels significantly and had them fade off. It's a length of 10 with a fade of like 8. Had them start to fade off here. So you can see obviously black tunnel here, fades until about here, and now you just can't see it anymore from that point back, but we just have those particles like spitting into the back wall. I think it looks quite nice. I got a second opinion at that point. The feedback from that first observer was initially I had these particles. I can actually show you if I can grab one. Void parent. Oh yeah, there we can see that, how the tunnel actually works in its fade. Black to nothing. You can see these stretched particles being spat back. Pretty cool. So we can just take this one here, which is connected to that one, which is the one, it's that bottom right one that's probably not as much good to us, so we'll grab this one. And what we're going to do on this one is just undo that effect. So what we'll be able to see here is on this tunnel, I have the rim elements being the same emission as the tunnel elements. And it makes it a little bit unclear about, like especially in this region here, a little bit unclear about where the edge of the threat is. If I was a player and I was trying to, really skirt up against the edges, where is the edge exactly? So in order to combat that, introduce this dulling slider that brings, it's kicked in now, brings the emission of the rim versus the rest of the pillar. Do this, we can make it a bit more pronounced. Brings the emission of they're all one element, and then drops back. The tunnel is now much dimmer than the rim, so that we can see a bit more clearly where the rim is in comparison to the tunnel. So it's kind of the last little iteration on the system, and away we went. We have a somewhat more cohesive, interesting visual element. Everything's adjustable. There's a good amount of fun to be had in just turning it up and making it super chaotic. The way that it is at the moment seems to be a nice balance. We have a stable 186 frames a second. This is with like everything happening. So death wall, all these blocks, multiple void zones, multiple snakes. We're halfway through a lightning strike. 190, 220 frames a second. We're pretty comfortable still, even with these new elements. So it's been a good run. That was a very big build. A lot to those technically. Obviously reusing a lot of our thinking from the other spots where we've used the same technique. But yeah, good little process. Portals. Portals are next.